And C is consequences of waiving insurance requirements for the Tall Ship event and Memorial Day Parade.
I'll take that one. The City Council has traditionally waived insurance requirements for the AMVETS Memorial Day Parade, which is held in the city right away. The AMVETS don't carry any insurance and do not require participants in the parade to carry insurance. Typically, the organizers of the Tall Ship event at City Docks have provided a certificate of insurance naming the city additionally insured. However, last year the City Council waived the requirement for them to provide the certificate. Tall Ship event organizer, the Grays Harbor Historical Seaport Authority, does carry insurance. The city's insurance provider, City County Insurance Services, or CIS, has stated the city should not be waiving the insurance requirement for special events on city property. CIS will not extend coverage to a third party that is not acting as an agent of the city, and CIS coverage will not respond for the sole negligence of the third party. Should the city want to provide funds to AMVETS to purchase insurance coverage for the Memorial Day Parade, the cost is estimated to be $775, and this would include a certificate of insurance naming the city as additionally insured. The cost for providing a certificate of insurance naming the city as additionally insured for an existing policy typically ranges from $0 to $150, depending on policy. So the action requested: consider the consequences of waiving insurance requirements and the possibility of providing funds to the AMVETS to purchase an insurance policy for the Memorial Day Parade. Any questions?
And then what is the situation with the tall ships? You think that we're covered because they're carrying
They have insurance, but they still need to provide us
additional insurance.
And so it's, for them, it would be a minimal cost.
I think we could ask the tall ship organizers. Remember, we pay $5,000 to the Boat Building Center to help defray costs for the tall ship event, our events. And that's separate from the $15,000 that we gave to them for the festival of sale, 2 different events. They could either use those funds to help defray it, or possibly Grays Harbor can pay it. We also give free moorage while the boats are in town. So, and provide a number of other services. I think this is the minimal one that they could probably cover. In my mind, the other one, the parade is a little bit bigger deal. I don't think they have funds. I think this is a perfect use of some of the hotel motel funds that we have. $775 is a small price to pay for an event that's enjoyed by a lot of people on the Memorial Day Parade. Our other parade, the Downtown Association already covers that with their event insurance. All we're really trying to do is reduce our risk on this event. Now, with the new information, I think it's wise to limit our risk with paying the AMVETS the money and let them get the insurance.
Was there anything else that we regularly waived insurance for? All I remember was Memorial Day Parade.
Your administrative directive number 6 is the directive that the council has approved for insurance, and it gives staff the ability to reduce insurance requirements only if the insurance agent of record, the city attorney, and the city manager all agree on that. So there are times when it actually makes sense, or it doesn't make sense to require that. Actually, it's an additional cost that we're paying. So we do that on a regular basis, but waiving completely is very rare.
So this won't set a precedent that we have to worry about down the road. So this just got initiated by CSI?
No, I think that's always been their policy. They're just being a little more vocal about it.
So did we pay this last year?
We did not.
I remember talking about it, and I was a little concerned about if something happened, would the city be liable?
Well, the city could be liable. The city's still covered by CIS. They're not saying that if the city got sued, that the city would be defended, but there would be the insurance available to the AMVETS, and we would have their policy to protect us as well. The idea of having an additional insured it means you're insured under their policy as well, and that would be primary insurance before CIS kicks in.
But where would we need it? Give me an example of.
For a car hit somebody, they sue
Well, I would
the
think
city of Quebec, because it's the city of Quebec.
I could sue the car that hit.
Well, that might be part of it. But they only have 25,000 limits, and you know,
Okay, I was just curious.
that's kind of how it would happen. Could happen.
So is this 775 that we would fund the AMVET insurance, take off to another agency and get it, or is it through?
They get it themselves.
Okay, and we're asking them to come back with these specific limits on the insurance.
Have they explored this? Is that how we came up with this number?
The numbers, those reflect the tort limits in Oregon.
The 775.
The 775.
Well, 775.
I just asked our insurance agent what the average price was.
So would be they be told that this is the amount they get, and if they find it more expensive, they'd have to cover the excess?
Well, I think if the agents, or excuse me, if the council's okay with the concept, it falls within my authority to pay an amount, and I think we just give it a little bit of flexibility.
Since we're talking about the amount that Roger, where does that come up? I mean, who decides your limit? We do, right?
You do, and currently it's $25,000 per event. We are working on a proposed revision to the city purchasing rules, which that is one of the rules, to bring back for your consideration.
So you've got something coming before us in the future. Okay.
It's a requirement for all the special events that we have at the facility. We always ask for an additional insurance, so it seems reasonable. The ships would actually are more concerning to me, so going forward, and at the Festival of Sales with the tall ships events, you're saying the Grace Harbor is going to provide the insurance for the additional insured?
What we're going to do is we're going to advise them in the boat building center that it needs to be provided, and we'll let the two of them decide
Who's
who's
going to
provided.
do it?
It used to be, like when we had our tool and equipment rental shop, if we got another piece of equipment, that we were just leasing, so all we did is call our insurance agency, and they didn't charge us anything, we just added it to the policy.
Yeah, we're not insured by an insurance company, but by a pool.
Oh, that's right, that's right.
And so all the other pool members are also cities, so they're trying to protect and keep insurance as low as possible.
Oh, I get it now, I forgot that it wasn't just like whoever we got.
All right, any other questions on this comment? Okay. Again, I just want to reiterate, you're more than welcome to jump in anytime. Right? Acceptance of the Oregon State Marine Board grant to resurface the boat ramp and parking lots. And these discussions we're just discussing it. We're not going to make any decisions here. This is, all this is just discussion for the next council meeting. So, anyway, who's handling this?
Okay, I'll take that. City staff and the
Here we go again, Jim.
Randy Dixon got word that Oregon State Marine Board had some extra money that hadn't gotten spent. So they were looking for candidates that wanted to have resurface their parking lots at their boat ramps, and we said, we'll jump in that line. So we were successful and were awarded $29,600 grant. Our match amount will be $7,400. And the work that we'll be doing is crack sealing and then seal coating and restriping the two parking lots.
Is this going to cover it? This money covered?
It should.
So, do we have money set aside for this, and what fund does this come out of?
The $7,400. We have, I think we budget about $20,000 a year for maintenance of our boat ramps. And some of that money though comes to us from Oregon State Marine Board to get maintenance dollars from them.
So do we have our own paint striper?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, that will be contracted out.
Okay. Well, I know. That's a separate question.
Does State Marine Board typically ask for a match, or is that a new? Because I don't remember that in the past.
I think they do.
Yeah, when we did the expansion of the East Side Boat Ramp, we did provide matching. We provided that to the renewal agency.
Okay, must be my poor memory.
Any other questions for Jim? All right. Considering the Holler in Place seawall design proposal and contract, I bet that's you, Jim.
That's me, but Roger.
So I'm actually going to suggest that we not discuss this tonight. I sent you an email earlier today that the Confederated Tribe will be coming before the Urban Renewal Agency to present a proposal on the Holler in Place. Given that that's just next month, and you'll be discussing that matter somewhat in depth after that presentation, I'd like to table this issue. In reality, depending on what they propose, we may want them to actually do this design and seawall repair as part of their project in return for whatever we may grant them. So I think this it's a timing issue, and since they're now coming to make the proposal, I think it's time to just put it on back burner for a few weeks.
How much is it gonna cost? I know this money that you have here is just the study.
Yeah.
This always just blows me away, how much it costs just to do this thing and study. But how much would it be to fix the wall? Is there an estimate on that?
So, yeah, this estimate here is about 15 to 20% probably of the cost. Not that we have an estimate from the designer, but probably this is, if we look and say this is about 20% of the cost, to give you an idea. So, about anywhere from 300,000 to 500,000.
So 20% is a ballpark or a pretty good way to measure anytime you're doing design work and actual construction. It generally falls out to be that 20% or a little bit less.
Would this be coming from the urban renewal funds?
Probably. I mean, I'm just speaking. I don't know if we have the funds anywhere else, do we? So that would be the only consideration.
Okay.
That's why it might be wise to negotiate this repair done by the public.
Well, let's see if any other questions on that one. Okay, possible revenues for street maintenance. This is something that the council has discussed in many council meetings and I think a few work sessions. Our streets are in disrepair. We are moving forward on a few projects. One being Golden, up to 7th, and I think we have $100,000 potholes. And are we getting those allocated in some kind of what we feel is a priority? Yeah, yes. Correct. So besides that, though, that's only enough for a temporary fix. And so I think myself and others are looking at other ways, and there are many ways, I think, or quite a few ways to initiate some costs. So anyway, who's handling this one?
I'll take this one. So the City Council has several potential methods to provide revenue to fund street maintenance. And the City Street Maintenance Task Force explored several methods and made some recommendations to the council back, I believe that was back in November 2013. And those included such things as general obligation bonds, changing the city charter so that go out for those bonds without both people necessarily. Transportation utility fee, franchise fee, local improvement districts, system development charges, local gas tax, downtown parking district, and shared services. And then under the background section there, I just kind of cut and paste that portion of the report from the Street Maintenance Task Force. And there's a little bit more information on each of those options we can talk about. Really the only, some of the numbers that are in there are from back in 2013. So the dollar figures may be a little higher than what they are in this report.
So when's the last time we went up for the geo bond?
For this building in 2008. As discussed by that task force, one of the considerations for there's positives and negatives about each one of these funding sources. The general obligation bond, the downside of that is that only those persons that are regulated to pay property tax would actually be paying into this fund. some of the biggest trip generators, or one of the biggest trip generators in the city, wouldn't have to pay any of it, and that would be the hospital. And so there was some discussion on, who pays. That's why I think the group put forward the gas tax model as probably what they thought would be the best model, because that would, anybody that's using fuel, including those that travel to our city or through our city, would be paying that. The other one that has some popularity among a lot of cities, and that's the transportation utility fee. We're not alone in talking about this tonight, because I'm understanding North Bend is having this very same discussion.
We're beating him to the punch, huh?
About the same fee. This one here is a fee that and it can be complex or simple, and there are all versions and sizes of this throughout the state and the nation. Some are as simple as they charge a fee such as $5 per utility hookup, and that would be, you could choose water hookup, and nearly everybody in the city gets water. So they would get a water bill and they would pay a $5 fee, and those dollars would be dedicated just to the streets. It's very common. North Bend does one now that's just dedicated to their storm drains. They're talking about one dedicated to police, and now they're talking tonight about one dedicated to streets.
Do you know how much that would generate? If we did like $5?
For us, I ran a number, assuming that's just over 7,200 hookups. I think I came out with a number of about $485,000.
Annually?
Yes.
And that is how much would it be? $5 per?
Yeah, $5 per month per hookup.
So, what is that? What percentage does that raise the average bill? Is that 5%?
But the average utility bill is at 15.
It's right about $60, so we just said.
So, about 8% or so.
But one of the reasons we were concerned about doing this in Coos Bay is that we're currently raising sewer rates 7% a year to build our wastewater treatment plant and fix all of our pipes. So we're concerned about adding to water sewer bills at this point because of that. Although it has other positive connotations. One of the things I wanted to bring up that we talked a lot about during the Streets Task Force, I can't believe it was 2013, it makes me a little bit sad. Still talking about this. Was system development charges. And there was a lot of desire in that group to sort of move forward on system development charges. And I think because we got sidetracked with other projects, we didn't really address that as well as we could have. But that could make a difference for street funding going forward.
The 7% goes on for how long? For wastewater?
Permanently.
No.
7%?
Now, so every 5 years, we do a wastewater rate study based on our projects. You're going to see increases last for a little bit longer now because you're doing two very large projects, and they're the treatment plants. So at some point in time, that'll slow down, but not for the next. At least we have another. We just did one that's looked at the 5-year horizon.
So this will not go away in the near future. 7%. Okay. And on the SCDCs, there was an SCDC in place by some city councils prior, and then it was suspended, right? And so now, if I understand correctly, to reinitiate that, it's really not up to where it needs to be, and we'd have to really go out and redo it again, right?
Correct, and it's important to remember that the money charged by or gained from that could not be used for road maintenance. It only could be used for new capacity. So extra lanes or paving streets, it can be used to do road maintenance.
Or paving streets other than the new lanes.
Yes.
But I think the reason they were talking about this is it would be nice to have some sort of a policy in place before development happens, rather than trying to chase after it occurs. I think we had a specific situation that we were dealing with where I forget what the subdivision was called.
Yeah. That was one off Lindy Lane.
Yeah, so potentially the development could come in here and it could cost X amount of dollars. The developer have to bear that cost, and it might take the project somewhere else. Other cities have those funds available so that that development can happen. We don't. We're not in that spot at this time.
Is this just a matter of lifting a moratorium? Did we establish the fees for that?
The plan needs to be redone. You're actually in a good position. We recently received information from ODOT that they have some grant funds and they would like to help us update our transportation system plan, the TSP, and we would be doing ours at the same time North Bend. And then, although it will take a couple years to get it done, that's what enables you to establish your projects and look at costs and actually build your plan. And your plan actually, your fee is based off of what are those capital improvements that you have on the list.
So this is only on future development though, right? The money that we would, and do we have any idea how much money that would be?
It really depends on the economy.
Yeah, I mean, this is more about planning for the future than actual money for potholes.
But I know, how many building permits we have right now?
I don't know, I don't remember that number off the top of my head.
I mean, it's quite a few, right?
We're having a banger.
Yeah, a couple hundred, I think, and so I don't know, so what do we, would system development charge on the new home or these kind of developments, it all goes into this fund that is, so.
So we're missing the goal right in it. Got it. And I know that, and I think perhaps, Joe, you might know more about this than I do, but during our conversations on the task force, one of the reasons the moratorium was enacted, not just because the economy was bad, but people weren't happy with how the system development structure was, how it was structured. And so apparently now you can introduce a lot more flexibility into the process to sort of handle these more on a case-by-case basis. And so we wanted to pursue something that's more flexible.
Yeah, better.
And plus, plus, I mean, at that time, and I'm not sure if we're still in the same situation here, we're the only city that was doing this. And so we already have this stigma that, it's hard to do business here anyway. And
Which
so,
will overcome.
correct, we will, because we're in a positive mode right now. So anyway, but that's just another factor would be there. But I think the contractors and the builders themselves probably support this because they understand the development part of it.
So, if you're saying, and forgive me, you just used an acronym, the transportation plan. So that would take 2 years. We would need that before we could move forward with this. So,
In order to build your plan, correct.
okay.
But can we not start the plan in concert with this? So when it's done, that we're moving along, or do we have to just wait till it's done to start?
In my understanding of system development charges, your charge is based off your list of projects that you have identified that is creating new roads. So without your list of projects, and we may have a list of projects that were identified several years ago, but now you have to go back out and recalculate those costs in order to build your plan, and then you have to introduce, the council will have to look at what methodology you want to use when assessing that and what are the options. It really is going to take an expert at these. We have engaged with an organization that actually does this for a living, and they actually train our trainers for the League of Working Cities on this very topic. It's not easy, and I'll tell you, some people have made missteps. One city up north on the northern coast ended up having to pay $2 million back because they misspent the funds that they had collected.
Going back to the transportation or the utility fee, we could put $5 on a water bill, but could we put it on another bill? So it doesn't, the perception that we've already increased the rates for wastewater, is there an opportunity to place that?
It would be if you had other utilities, but we only own one utility.
Oh, got it. Okay.
So unless you had an agreement with Pacific Power or someone else, and they would probably charge us for that. I think, unfortunately, the water bill is the only option that you have.
And I would just add to that I think a lot of people are acutely aware of anything that goes up on their power bill or their water and sewer bill.
Yeah.
Right now, people are really closely watching that because they've noticed.
No, I agree. Again, it goes back to messaging, right?
Yeah.
If we were to increase it $5, we better be really clear what we're going to do with that, why, and what we're going to do with that money.
You know, I don't know what city it was, I heard that they take the local gas tax, they have a gas tax, and they use that for maintenance. And I think that's what the intent was when the city went up last time for the gas tax. And if I understand correctly, the maintenance at that time was $750,000 a year. That's just to maintain the streets as where they're at. It has nothing to do with fixing it. And then I heard that so that's what this city did. And I don't know if it was Eugene or Springfield or Salem, I don't know who it was. But they went out for a geo bond. And what they did on the geo bond, they listed certain streets. Okay, we're going to fix these streets. It's going to be this much money. And they went out and bond, and they did those streets. After they did that, they went out again and listed some other streets. And so everyone knew what streets were going to be fixed. I mean, I thought it was a nice concept because they're different entities and different animals to deal with. So,
and that was the city of Eugene, and they're doing it every 5 years, and it's been really successful for
Did
them.
you tell me that?
Yes, I did.
Good, I remembered.
It's okay.
So anyway, I mean, I think it's a good idea. I mean, it's a good concept to try to do. And as you know, I've been an advocate for the local gas tax, but I think we need to do it in the near future. But
Well, we might, and I mean, considering we talked about this before, but considering the backlog that we have, we may need to be doing more than one thing. I agree.
Probably, and I think we take it in stages, you know, and I definitely agree. And then downtown parking district, I think Phil, that was something that you had suggested, right?
I did, and I'd like to jump back a little bit to that 750,000. That's bringing the bad roads up to standard, right?
Well,
I mean, it's not constructing new roads, but it's
right.
fixing some roads.
it's what we would need at a minimum to get our roads, not necessarily to brand new, but
Exactly.
in good condition.
But the ones that are fair, you'd bring them up to average anyway. And so if we've got, what's our franchise fee revenue, about 300,000? So if we had $5 a month per water hookup, and that's just a simple way to state it, we would get close to $750,000 a year. We're pretty close to reaching that stage to where we can maintain. And then if we had other revenue sources, such as your 5 for 5 idea on the gas tax, or even some sort of a bond to build new roads or to completely do like what we're doing on Golden, we could start a process where we're actually moving forward with fixing a lot of things. I think you have to give the public a little bit more credit. They may not. I mean, nobody wants to pay more, but if you're showing that, you know, we're constantly fixing these streets, we're bringing that street up to a better standard, we're doing better on this road, and that's where your money's going. I think people have enough intelligence to understand that, and it's hard to stomach paying more, but then again, when you want more, when you demand more services, you know somebody's got to pay for it. So I mean that's kind of my idea. The parking district was something that just, you know, I thought we need to spend some time on that because it hasn't had any attention in 50 years. And I just thought it'd be a good idea for us to have a discussion about the parking district and the way it's structured and whether it needs to be updated so that district, you know, pays for itself instead of the city's general fund dollars maintaining those parking lots. It's a conversation that I think we ought to have. That was my only.
I think it's particularly important for the Empire District because many of those businesses and apartments and things use the street to park cars.
Yes.
The first block of South Lawson is a classic example. If you look overhead at that street during the day when the buses are coming and people are going to work and coming home for lunch and using that one block on South Lawson, it's cars parked on both sides for businesses, which forces the traffic into the center, which is where all the trouble is, in the middle of that street. So, you know, they're getting the benefit of that, and then it's, you know, deteriorating roads, and I think we need to maybe look at how we can use those districts. I think they would rather have a better street to park on too.
Item 2.
So are you talking specifically about the local improvement districts? Is that what you're talking about,
No,
Stephanie?
It's the downtown, well,
The
parking
parking
district.
district.
Is there a parking district on Empire?
Yeah.
So years ago, we sent the downtown parking district, I think, was started because where the parking lots now were businesses, and they assessed themselves to take those businesses down, relocate them, and they make parking lots. And then it went away after.
And I think it was about a 20-year program, and each business within the parking district was assessed much like a property tax, and that money went in to fund the purchase, demolition, and then the construction of new parking lots. And then when that ended, when those capital projects were paid off, then the assessment ended. And I think what Councilor Marler is talking about is, well, we got that part done, but we never really looked at what's happening in the future. How are we going to maintain those?
So if we were going to do a transportation utility fee, Roger, you put in here that the council may wish to consider whether to go to a vote on that.
Yeah, so on different methods of revenue, there are different requirements how it can be approved. Under state law, a gas tax has to be approved by the voters.
Right.
Because we are a home rule state, many things the council has the authority to do, such as a SDC, system development charges, or a transportation utility fee. The council can approve local improvement districts, but those are somewhat different. That's where a group of neighbors get together and they want to pave their street. The city upfronts the money and they agree to pay back the city through an assessment on their property. So somewhat.
That's a huge, huge expense for property.
It is.
Because we tried to have one, and that we had one person who was real adamant about it, and it was like $10,000–$15,000 added to there. And their other neighbors weren't willing to do it.
But a very successful one was in Inglewood a number of years ago. California, up California, was it 21st, 22nd?
And Minnesota too.
Yeah, Minnesota.
Yeah, those upper end, I mean, they got together, they paid for it, the streets are great. They did a good job. So it does work, you know.
There's just a number of different revenue sources and how do you work through those. And we do have some money coming in every year that's pass-through dollars from the state gas tax. Should the state make some changes, depending if they don't monkey with the formula, we would get additional funds as well.
Do we think, so let's say we just pick two of these. Do we think, let's say we picked the gas tax and the transportation utility fee. You've already been, you went, and all the work that you did, you have a list of the streets from the citizens that
Well, the Streets Task Force paid a consultant to evaluate, no, because I don't have that expertise, to evaluate all of the streets, conditions, so that we would have information about the condition of each street, and that helped us try to make a priority list of what projects needed to be done.
So is that condition, and was there a cost associated with that?
Well, that was where we got the $750,000 just to maintain the street figure, was from that study. And then was there anything else that came out of that? Besides that?
Well, no, they came with the cost, the price, and then they prioritized the streets. And so then they gave us some different scenarios. And one was like $750,000, that's kind of the in-between. They gave us a takedown list over the next 5 years of projects we could do. And then they also gave us one for several, maybe it was over $1 million. I don't remember what it was, but several millions of dollars a year to then go out and refurbish all the streets. And so I think we kind of focused on that middle of the road, $750,000, and we have a takedown list. Our consultant will recommend.
So we have all the information to talk to the citizens, to be able to say, we're going to, do these two options, for example, and this is what we're going to accomplish with that.
But if we spent the $750, then we could stop the further deterioration of a lot of the streets, and then make the capital improvements as more money comes available. Is that? Am I thinking about that in the right
I think so. We wouldn't be doing projects like the Golden project.
Correct.
We would be going out after roads that aren't in that bad of shape and putting what we call slurry seal or something like that on, and that just slows the degradation of good streets and keeps them good. And then we might be able to, also under that $750,000 cap, go out and do some streets that maybe are in a little worse condition, where we just still have to dig out little portions of where potholes and depressions are occurring. Once we get beyond just a few little potholes and depressions, then we're looking at something more significant.
And that would be other revenue sources, right? But at least we could slow down or stop a lot of the degradation that's going on with the streets all over town, right? I mean, am I thinking about that?
I think so. Yeah, again, it would be probably the main arterials and collectors.
Okay.
And if there are some neighborhood streets that are in still fair shape, then we could apply for that neighborhood streets as well.
So one idea that the council may be able to do is that they do have a budget committee meetings beginning next month on next year's budget. This might be a topic that may want to be discussed. The budget committee would be 14 members and see what their thoughts are that they would like to move forward. That might give you some direction as far as further discussing or implementing a street utility fee or moving forward to ask the voters for a UTS tax.
I guess what I'm sort of hearing as we're talking about this is, regardless, I think we'd like to pursue system development charges, even though it's going to take a while. And then, to me, that this is just my opinion here. The gas tax or the transportation utility fee are sort of maintenance sources of funding, whereas the GO bond would be more of a replace the street source of funding. Does that sound?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, that's my feeling or philosophy on that.
Kind of a nice way to do it, but it's different ways.
Well, I mean, we sort of started that with the task force because if you recall the franchise fee increase that the staff was able to negotiate, we dedicated that to streetlights, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that way that pulled that money out so we could use the remainder for streets. So we're devoting street money to street lights. So it's somewhat dangerous, I think, to compartmentalize revenues because then you have a little bit less flexibility, but in some ways it helps to sell it to the constituents, I think, to say, we're just going to use this money for this tax.
Well, I think if you did that GO bond and listed the streets, I think it might be a nice way to approach it. And then you're not locked into it. I mean, you could do a GO bond and be general about it if you wanted. The only thing about the gas tax that I like, and the one I'm proposing is the five months for 5 cents, is because you get all the users. And the other part about that is we're getting the tourists that are coming through. They're going to be paying for part of this, and rightly so, because they're utilizing it. And this happens in other areas. We're one of the few cities that don't do this. And it's a shame that we're not taking advantage of this. And then, because that's my philosophy, and the utility one is doing all the locals. And I think it's something that we might want to do, but there's other ones that drive the roads that won't be paying that tax.
Right.
And so that's my only philosophy on that. I'm not sure that we shouldn't do maybe both if it comes down to it, or we need to, but I think that we need to address one at a time. I really hate to put too much on at once. I think it's hard for everyone to understand, and I think we need to kind of have a track record or be proven on it. Whether the gas tax will be supported or not, I don't know. It's for us to see. It would depend on our marketing people to make sure that happens, right? But anyway, that's just where I'm at on this. And then the other thing, the way it states right now, so what's the difference if we go up for a bond or warrant instead of the way it is now, we just go up for a loan, correct? Is that how we do this?
So on the city charter, it basically was amended a few years ago, actually 1996, and basically says that we go out for a bond, or we go to our bond council, and we actually have to have the approval of the voters. That always has to happen with a general obligation bond. Anytime that you're adding a fee to the voters, or a tax to the voters, it has to be approved by them. Where otherwise on bonds, you could go out for what's a revenue bond, such as wastewater revenue bond. You go out and get a bond, generally you can get it cheaper than you can get a loan. But we're somewhat prevented from doing that. On the flip side, for streets, you don't have a revenue source, so it's not really hurting you at the moment. If you had a consistent revenue source, you'd want to be able to utilize that. The more money you save, the more money you can put into asphalt for the street.
So is a bond would be cheaper than a loan?
They can be, yes.
And a bond, you can, the taxpayers can potentially write it off in their taxes. Whereas a loan, it doesn't, the fee to them doesn't come across through the tax statements. So there's two different options.
So the way it is now, it's in the charter that this can't be, a bond cannot happen unless we go out for a vote, right? A revenue bond. Correct. So anyone have questions on these items or discussion on these items?
I was just gonna put my 2 cents in. I
Good.
I really agree with you, Joe. I think, if we ask too much, then we kind of cancel out everything. And I feel like the gas tax was more equitable across the board, where some of the fees could be applicable to maybe somebody that owns a building that rents to somebody, but they're not here and they're not using the streets, and those, I guess, just as a silly example. But I think we have to be cognizant, not go out and ask too much out of people's pocket. But we do have a problem. And also, I guess my dream would be that maybe we take this to the people and say, here's the options that we have, because people are frustrated with the streets.
Sure.
Here's the options that we have to try and generate revenue. What's your best scenario?
I like that.
Yeah.
The gas tax, to get a more equitable tax of all the people that are utilizing the roads, especially for the summer months. And I think if it's not year round, that might also be a better selling point for folks. Yeah, I definitely want to see us make some direction on the system development charges, so we're better positioned for development down the road.
Do we know how much tax, or how much revenue that gas tax would generate?
We don't. It is difficult because we have to make our best guess. Bulk distributors in the area don't provide that information. The state can't provide it to us, so we really don't know gallons per sold.
Most of the big trucks would be not paying the gas tax anyway. They would just go to those bulk places. That was eliminated the last time.
And I guess, playing devil's advocate, I guess the point that I would make is will that generate $450,000 a year?
Well, when we were looking at what went out to the voters, I think it was 4 cents, but before that, I know we run some numbers with 5 cents, and we had an estimate that would generate about $500,000, so about $100,000 a penny for a whole year. That is what we were thinking we would do. And that was based on,
That was based on an annual instead of 5 months.
Right. And I mean, it will not cover 750 by any means.
Right.
But I think that, we got to start something. And something prove, that something can be done.
I agree.
Well, and the change in the franchise fee that we did got us 250 to 300 there,
Right.
so we're not 750 in the hole.
True.
Well, that's right. We're halfway there. Sort of, if you do fuzzy math.
Alternative matter.
And we really are one of the few cities that doesn't have a system development charge right now. I know recently I've seen Bandon's is probably the highest in Coos County. It's around $14,000 for a single family residence. I did see one a couple of weeks ago. Lakeside is $8,000.
Lakeside has one?
Yes. So
there you go.
Charleston, for their systems. So we're one of the few that doesn't, and it really is time to have that discussion and get it going.
Joe?
Yes.
You do a gas tax, is it something we have to coordinate with North Bend about?
We don't have to. I think I would like to see North Bend participate in it. I think it would be beneficial to both. I personally don't think that we should tie them together. I would hate to see that happen. I think it's You know, I think it would be best for both of us if it happened, but if we tie it together where one goes down to the other, that could be a detriment too.
It kind of slowed up the process last time too. I think when you kind of got a lot of steam for the gas tax and then North Bend thought about it for a while, it kind of slowed up the process. How soon do you think a gas tax could be on ballot?
I would like to see it on November, but, you know, that's,
Possible.
yeah, I think it's possible. I think what we have to do is, don't want to get involved or even start discussing this until after the May election. And then after that, we have to really start buckling down and getting together and start moving out and doing it. And I'm a firm believer in, besides what was done in the past, is getting in the neighborhoods and getting friends and having, you know, groups get together and discuss this, a grassroots type operation, as I'm looking at it. Because I think that's what's going to take to really explain to people, you know, you want to have the time to do it, and it's going to be incumbent upon this council to, you know, really get involved and put some time into it. So much for only a few hours a week.
The vote wasn't that far off. The vote wasn't that far off last time.
Well, I think it's really understanding, and I think there's some frustration, and I understand that. But if we want to have a good city, and I think everyone does, and we have a lot of things on the plate, I think we have to start and explain it to the people, and then I think they'll understand it too.
One last comment about the utility fee and the $5. And I understand the sensitivity to water bills and sewer bills and stuff. But the sewer bill is a percentage that's going up every year.
Right.
You do $5, it's $5, and then it never goes up again. So they don't see their sewer bill continuing to increase because it's just that one-time increase at $5. So if it was explained well, it might be okay as well.
Would it be possible to put on the bill $5 sewer or street fee? I mean, so we can definitely be demarcation that that's what it's going for. They might. And then when people have a huge pothole in front of their house, they might be happy to pay that.
And I think visibility is really important. You have marketers on, you know, that people see results when they support things. That's one reason why Golden is such a good idea, because people go into the post office all the time and see that. And they start seeing the pothole, they start seeing that street repaired. That gives them hope.
Believe it or not, Mortal Point has a $4 a month fee on their water driveway, and it's for streets. And it says it on there.
I just noticed that our property taxes go up every year. Does the city get a portion of that to help with the maintenance and this type of thing?
So I can answer that. So the property taxes currently go into the general fund, and it's the general fund that pays for police and fire. All of the property tax that we receive currently doesn't even pay for the police and fire, our total expense.
Oh.
It actually costs $1 million more than the property tax received to provide police and fire services. So no general fund dollars are actually used for streets.
But doesn't the property tax go up every year so much or not?
No.
About 2% or whatever else, no?
This last year it went up just under 1.4, and the county went up about 3.4.
So what determines that?
I'm sorry?
What determines the increase or not?
Assessed value.
Commercial property values went down 7%, but residential properties went up 20%.
Because they went down 7%?
They did.
Wow.
And so the overall receipt to us was a little over 1, almost 2.
1.43, the difference between what we received the prior year to this year.
But now you got to remember too that those values are from January 1st. So those are,
it takes a couple of years.
the assessor's office is a year behind as far as what the market is. So
The maximum would go up to 3%.
correct.
So even if the grade value goes up 20%, the maximum.
And our costs don't stay flat.
And then that's probably
Wow, that's for sure.
as much as people would like. It's just not happening.
No doubt this will be another topic during the budget talks. It always is.
So what about this parking district thing? Is that something the council is interested in or looking into or not?
I'd like to see something.
What would that do? What are you talking about?
Well, the downtown parking district, and I'm not sure how the Empire one is, but if there was a fee associated with the businesses downtown that utilize those parking areas. Right now, the city maintains those parking lots at a cost to all taxpayers. This way, if the specific is Phil's suggesting, then those businesses would be assessed X amount, and those funds would be utilized to fix the parking lots instead of the city.
To maintain that
Maintain.
district. Yeah, that district.
Those businesses are benefiting by not having to maintain their own parking lot already, so they're basically getting free parking as it stands, aren't they?
That's pretty
Well,
much.
kind of, well, you're right. Well,
If you think about it in those terms.
well, not, somewhat, but listen, going back, at one point, the businesses downtown paid a fee for 20 years to make those into parking lots. Now, they're not paying anything to maintain them.
Yeah.
That is correct.
Yeah, it's,
But I think it'd be a little hard out in Empire because they're all roads.
Well, I don't know how it's set up there, that's, I can't.
Yeah, I don't remember how it is either, but
And you gotta remember the benefit to the businesses that are in the parking district. Generally, if you have a business and you, let's say you have a certain type of business, you have to provide so many spots of off-street parking. So you have to have, like here, you have a parking lot. When you're in a parking district, you do not have to provide your own off-street parking. You get to use the available on-street parking on the city lots. So there actually is some advantages to developing within a parking district.
That's the better version of what I was shooting for.
And would it be easier to evaluate that maybe, if you're looking at the two districts, Empire really would probably be easier to figure out what that assessment should be per business versus, because it's more difficult in downtown Coos Bay. You could have a business downtown, but their people are parking up, on 3rd Street.
I think one of the things we could do, and I believe there's going to be a little bit of homework in this before this is really comes back to the council for further discussion. That homework has to be is how can we assess that fee or tax? Since we do have Measure 5 and 50, but that's come between when it was created and now. And then I think we can have some discussions with the downtown businesses association that can have discussion with their members and get some feedback. So I think we have some homework to do, and I think it's a worthy topic at least to bring back and share what we want to.
well, if you crafted it correctly, as you're saying, like in Empire, the revenue generated could be used to acquire properties to create parking lots, as well as maintain. So if you did it correctly, the downtown district, the lines are kind of weird. The lines just run around everywhere. But if you look at the downtown district and you take every property that's in that downtown district, if they were full with the use that's allowed under the zoning, and then they had to have that many parking spaces, we're 1,200 parking spaces low from what
And I'm
those
sure the
businesses would
businesses
need.
feel that sometimes.
So, the downtown district doesn't have enough. I'm sure Empire doesn't have enough. And you could use those dollars not only to maintain that district, but to acquire properties and create more parking lots. So I just think that it's, but I completely agree with you. The downtown association needs to be involved. If you don't have the blessing of the business owners, you're not even going to get it off the ground.
And I think a little homework on the methodology on how do you actually assess a fee or a tax,
Right.
Given Measure 5 and 50.
Right.
We need a little bit of work.
Oh, you're right.
I don't know that I would look at assessing as far as maybe licensing.
We're trying to remember if it's done.
Business
before.
Business licensing.
And if it's a fee and not a tax,
Different.
because it's its own district, and they're contributing to the district.
That's what we think.
Yeah.
I'm sure someone else has gone down no pun intended road before.
Would you beat that to death, Joe?
Yeah.
Lots of
Yes.
lots of things to consider, right?
Yeah, that's good, that's good, we need to talk about it.
Yeah.
You're gonna be so tired of hearing about this.
No, I'm not. The only thing that makes me a little sad is that we did that in 2013. I didn't think it'd been that long.
Next thing is continued discussion on the janitorial contract. We're back. Or it's back.
Flip a coin.
I mean, basically, when we met last time, we were talking about the contract for the janitorial services for the city being expanded into, they have actually been expanded in the same agency, Berry Enterprises, doing the library, and people in the library are not all that happy about it for various reasons. It costs a lot more than it did before. But at the same time, you have to understand that I think they had sort of I think someone said a sweetheart deal going beforehand. So no matter who does it, it's going to cost more. And I've done some additional research and analysis on this issue about whether we're required to award it to the and to the Bay Area Enterprises under the Department of Administrative Services procurement list. They're on the list, and that they give preference to people involved that serve people who are disabled from employment. And the agency that regulates that, I mean, they're very adamant that, in fact, you're required to. You really don't have an option unless they're not doing an appropriate job. You have some options of getting out of it, getting away from it. But basically, at this point in time, under the agency's own directions, we don't have a whole lot of choice in that.
So what determines what's being done appropriately or not? Good job.
Well, let me back up a little bit too, because back in 2010, before we were aware of this rule, the city had its own janitor, and we did our own janitorial services, and we chose at that time to outsource that and no longer do it in-house for cost-saving measures. And we actually went out to bid, and it was about the time the bids came in we became aware of the rule. As it came to be, Bay Enterprise actually participated in that bid and actually was the lowest bid. We have used their services since 2011 at the Visitor Information Center, City Hall, and city shops. And in reality, I believe we're pleased with their services. I think some of the issue at the library, and I'm saying this here, I think part of the issue, one is it was quite a sticker shock, and then things weren't done as they were always done before, but you also had someone that did it for an extremely long time. I think the quality control issues just need to be addressed. And if that doesn't work, then I think we take the measures that's needed to sever the relationship. But I tend to believe that we can get the level of service up. We have a person that does really well with working with them, Randy Dason, and we can work through that. But I think our first step is just to address the quality issues.
So if it turns out that the city overall is happy with the services they're receiving from Bay Area Enterprises, but the library continues not to be, can they split out that contract, or do they have to stay under the?
I think we're going to have to research that.
We're currently on an amendment to our original contract.
No, I remember that we did that. I just was thinking about how this might progress.
You're right, and Roger's right. We need to check on that because basically the proposal eventually is to have one. I mean, it is one contract, just an addendum to the contract which had and can we separate now.
And when you mentioned the procurement list, does the procurement list include other vendors of janitorial services that could be approached as a comparable? Because they provide the same, they employ the same kind of people that Bay Area Enterprises does?
If they're on the list, yes.
So would that be a way to go out to bid, I guess is what I'm asking?
There would be, but I believe Bay Area Enterprises is the only one in our area.
I checked the website the other night, Jennifer, and there's 2 listed for Coos County. Other than Bay Area Enterprises, there's also Access Unlimited Incorporated, but they're out of Brookings, and so I don't know if they just do Southern Coos County, whether they'd really be viable up here. But there are actually 2 listed that qualify as a QRS on the state administrative site. So, and I agree with the attorney, you're really limited in what you can do. If they are not in compliance with the rules that the administrative services set up, you can also let them go. There's certain things they have to do as well. But I think from the library's perspective, part of that's the quality, but I don't know how often that contract comes up. How often does it get renegotiated?
Every 2 years.
Every 2 years. because when you look at that contract, the fees that they charge are, part of them are set by the state. Administrative Services has a fee schedule for janitorial services for these QRFs, and so some things are pretty much set. But if you look at the current contract, they have a 20% overhead fee that they can charge. And on the contract, there's no breakout. Oh, there's places for them to break out what makes up that 20%, but I didn't see anything in their contract breaking it out. Plus, they also are able to charge a 6% margin on top of that. And that's the maximum they can charge by the state without going back to the state to ask why they're charging more than 6%. And the 6% is supposed to cover inventory and equipment stuff in the future. But if you look at the contract, a lot of the equipment stuff is already contracted there. We pay for all the supplies. They don't really maintain an inventory. So when I look at 26% between the margin and the overhead, it seems like an awful lot. And I'm not saying we can't use them. I'm just saying the next time the contract comes up, maybe we have to be really specific about that and try to negotiate that cost.
Well, and the other thing with that is that when they calculated the 20%, they added it in at the end of the contract. They didn't base it on the services, so it was actually more than 20%, about $1,500 more than 20%. So
when does the contract come up?
In May. May of this year.
Oh, that's in May?
Yes.
So that's the time that someone's going to discuss.
Right.
But we are working with them. I mean, we are in conversation with them constantly to try and make sure expectations, we're all understanding the same thing and stuff. So I mean, we're not just complaining and not trying to do anything, but we're working with them.
So Sammy, what about the impact to your budget? I mean, I know that this has been like an exponential increase for you guys. So what parts of that, your budget, is that impacting?
The contractual services.
So I guess is there some trade-offs that happening is what I'm wondering.
Oh,
in other words, did you have to rob someone?
We didn't have to necessarily lob off anything, but our like contingency and that type of thing is where it's going.
Well, and you had to tear down the services that you were previously getting that you're no longer able to afford.
For the current contract. But I budgeted for potentially getting them back up to where.
I can't say, just with a little bit of simple math, it would actually cost us more to hire locally to do the same services. It behooves us to work on our new agreement with Barry Brothers.
Okay. All right, so other business, but before we get into that with council, can we have any discussions? Anything else from the public?
I just wanted to kind of figure out what was going on, but I also am a little bit concerned, and I'm trying to find out where is the best venue to talk about this. It's probably more a county concern than just city, but I'm representing some other people who are noticing crime, theft, car theft, and I'm concerned because some of these people are choosing to just go out onto their own and be like vigilantes, and I'm worried that something's going to happen to somebody, even a citizen. I'm wondering what we're doing towards that direction to keep from that happening. I also, we're going to school, and we know that in the media a bigger deal was made about what happened near Blossom Gulch the other day, but parents still are afraid, and if I understand correctly, that was partly due to another stolen vehicle. And so I'd like to just find out where I could have to get involved. I'd like to make sure that nobody gets hurt, because I hear of people that are out doing foot patrols at night and whatever. They're not trained. That's not what they should be doing. But that's their mindset right now, is take back our city. And I'm just worried for myself. And for Christmas we bought ourselves a security system because we can't trust that somebody's not wandering around our property. And I know it's everywhere. It's Coos Bay, North Bend, and countywide, and I'm just wondering, where is the proper place to have that discussion?
Chief, you want to start?
Sure. And directly, that kind of addressing the issue yesterday with the stolen vehicle, and that particular vehicle I believe it probably started in Coos Bay when we took a stolen report of a stolen Honda, on the night before last, that after that vehicle was stolen, it was on video with 2 male subjects in Charleston trying to steal another truck there, and were ran off. And then that stolen vehicle that was from our city was located in Charleston, and the vehicle that we got in pursuit was stolen from Charleston that night. So I believe it was all kind of tied together. They stole a vehicle from Coos Bay to get to Charleston, to steal a vehicle, to get a bigger vehicle to go into Curry County and commit burglaries, residential burglaries, and what we call them car clouds, but UEMVs in Curry County. And then once they were coming back up, a deputy located the vehicle heading out Sumner, went to initiate a traffic stop, got into the pursuit, pursued through up Olive Barber, came into the city. When it came into our city, my officers got involved in that particular pursuit. And once it actually started in the city, and we determined the traffic volume at that time of the day, and it was headed towards our schools, we made the decision, my sergeant made that decision, correct decision, to terminate that pursuit. So we backed off, all law enforcement backed off. That particular person who was in that did not stop driving the way he was driving. He'd already blown out a tire, was still headed right up to the schools. We kind of positioned ourselves around knowing that eventually he was going to have to stop because the vehicle could just no longer continue. And he continued to run through stoplights, through the Case parking lot at that particular time, with a blown out front tire, spark flying. He could not control that car at a high rate of speed. Crossed Central Avenue twice before he actually crashed, and then bailed from the car up by Blossom Gulch, where we kind of, once again, we're in the area, tried to surround the area. Before we could contain him and get our canines in place, they got another call from actually Brian Trindle's wife, who lived up by Blossom Gulch, who was witnessing a person taking a rock and smashing the window out of a car. And before we could get there, and we had law enforcement everywhere, before we get there, they actually stole that car and was out Shingle House, where the county got into another pursuit with that car, ended up losing it, and they ended up running a log truck off the road down trying to get away. So that's kind of our, but
sounds like a fun day.
Oh, that was just the beginning of it. 2 hours later, we had another stolen car with another bail that was supposed, we're assuming it was unrelated, but that tied up in Coos County law enforcement that was available at that time, just dealing with that particular situation. So we weren't available to go out and take care of any other calls that were stacking up, piling up. We haven't possibly identified those people, but we're fairly confident we know who they were, and they were arrested 2 days before by us in a stolen vehicle, and we're not lodged at the jail because there's no, and that's where our crux to the situation is right now. That's our broken point. I mean, we got other issues with crime in the city, but when we're continually dealing with those same people over and over and over again, because there's no place to lodge them, there's no place to hold them, so there's consequences to their actions, and that's our broken point at this right now.
So that's where if somebody wants to get involved, and that's where we need to be as county.
At county and expressing our concerns to them that's where it needs to be taken care of. And I know Sheriff Zanny is, he's trying to make some headway in that, and I don't necessarily agree with some of his ways he's trying to deal with that, because it's a county issue, yeah, it's an entire county issue. We're part of Coos County, but the citizens of Coos Bay, I believe, are paying a price for him trying to make a point and trying to increase.
Well, that's how.
There's a whole bunch of.
Yeah, that's how people feel, is that people are going to jail and getting out because they're trying to prove a point. And that's the comments that I'm hearing. But I'm more concerned that I shouldn't have to buy a surveillance system for my house. None of us should have to do that. And when we see the same names in the newspaper over and over again, so now these citizens are deciding that they're gonna go out and stop these people. Well, that's not
And that's,
healthy
you know,
either.
and we encourage neighborhood watches. We encourage people to keep in touch with their neighbors and know what's going on in their neighborhoods. And, you know, and the neighborhood watch program is designed upon, you know, whether their neighbors out doing neighborhood patrols, just keep an eye. We don't encourage by any means having gone and contacting these people. And you're right, this is what it's done. Josephine County is the perfect example of what has happened without any law enforcement in the county, any way to lodge and hold support people and make them accountable for what their actions are doing. And I was just in Josephine or Grants Pass, and there's an article in there just in the increase in violent crimes and homicides in the area, and they're attributing it to legalization of marijuana. That's a portion of it because Josephine County is known for growing marijuana for years, and these crimes are being committed out in the Cave Junction area where it's county law enforcement. But you know, I'm afraid, and I agree with you, that that's where we're getting to. It's going to, until we can get that component of law enforcement in Coos County fixed, the jail and the district attorney's office and all these other ones too. They can accountable. I really believe I could lock up 25 people and I could identify 25 people that are stolen cars, the issue would go away. It will not go away, but it would drastically go back to where it was in 2016, where from January 1st to February 28th, I took 3 stolen car reports in 2016. In that same period this year, I've taken 50. So that's...
What's the unused capacity in the jail?
The jail can house up to 250 people. I know that the commissioners are working on the issue, and they have...
How many are they currently using?
48.
48. They have additional funds to hire deputies. There is a pay issue where deputies are leaving to go to other places currently because they're one of the lowest paid in the state. They are currently in negotiations with their union and trying to address that. It's not an easy fix because even if they increase the pay, then they've got to go through the hiring process, and then there's a statewide training and in-house training. So we could be looking at this for another 6 to 8 months. So, I mean, that's just the reality of the situation. But I do know that commissioners are invested in getting this fixed, and they're working with the sheriff, and they're collectively working in discussions with the union at this time.
It's kind of ironic that the car that was stolen on 5th Street belonged to the daughter of the newest hired deputy to cover in the jail.
Yeah.
Gary, is there any thought to maybe getting together? We have 3 active neighborhood watches, if I understand correctly. And Pam, do you know if they're
one's east side, right? Yeah.
We got east side, we got the Miller and Crest area, it just kind of got started, and then we've got the Empire Coalition group.
Would there be any anything that we could do to maybe get some officers to meet with these organizations? I know Empire's meeting tonight. To maybe talk about, you know, how to properly do these things, maybe get ahead of some of that, take back our street thing. I know out in Empire there's a lot of concern on North and South Wasson Wall.
We do our best to make sure that there's an officer, and that's usually at the cost of, because I got to call somebody on overtime because the on-duty shift there, I mean, as soon as it's 6:30, it's like some chain, it's go from 6:30 on. There's no time. So
we do have officers there. Maybe to get an organizational meeting, I'm not saying on a constant basis, but maybe to get some structure to the organizations that would be more beneficial to your officers because, you know, more eyes and is a lot of times going to be more helpful, but also to make sure that we're not hindering what's happening and that we're communicating with our citizens that, you know, we know there's a problem. Our police know there's a problem.
I've aligned with Milnercrest, their block facility, and we are a new one, and the police officer came to our first organizational meeting, was really helpful. He was scheduled to come to the second one, but called away for business. And so couldn't attend, but they are real helpful. One thing that I thought about is, and glad to hear there's 3 active ones now, is sometimes it would be nice if people from the neighborhood watch, the different neighborhood watches, would get together and talk about the kinds of things they're doing in their neighborhood. Because I know that's been expressed when we've met at Milnercrest. Like I said, our next meeting is the 23rd of March at 7 o'clock at the Milnercrest School, so you're more than welcome to come if you'd like.
And that's a great way to, share.
And there is one over on East Bay, too. They've got a neighborhood watch on that side because I ride my bicycle up and down that road, and they have potluck, neighborhood watch potluck going on even. So
what time did you say, the 23rd?
7 o'clock. Let me double check.
And then there's also one, we just had a large neighborhood watch that we attended, but it was out at Charleston Fire Station, and they're organizing the neighborhoods out in that particular area, and that drew some people from South Coos Bay, I call it South Coos Bay, the south end of Empire, out in that area. So there are several neighbors that went out there. So we made sure that we had an officer from Coos Bay that was there that could address questions specifically to things that the Empire, or not the Empire, the Charleston out from in the county part, were really encouraging us to get involved because there's not a lot of representation from the sheriff's office to come and attend those. They did have some representation. Captain Downing made a point to get out there and try to address some of the issues. So that one's organizing as well out there too, and it's mostly because of people are concerned, rightfully concerned, that you can't go to sleep at night and wake up and know that your car is going to not be broken into or completely gone the next morning.
It is 7 o'clock, and it's at the Milnercrest School, the school administration building. And we actually have our own Facebook page, and we actually send messages to each other. So somebody's truck was broken in down the street the other day, and they posted a message on there. Somebody got UPS packages sold and said, hey, can you look out for this? So we try to inform each other electronically.
We have a group also up on Eastman Heights, Olive Arbor, in that area. That's a Facebook page that we shoot stuff out to each other.
I was going to mention, I'm from Charleston. We have a neighborhood watch there. But we go door to door and talk to the neighbors. It's pretty scary. It's a one-on-one relationship because we're outnumbered, basically, with how many are coming to Charleston.
And anytime you get a neighborhood together that just talks, and you know your neighbors, you know their names, you know their kids' names, that's a neighborhood watch. You don't necessarily have to have a meeting every week and organize this and that. Just back in the old days when you knew your neighbor. So, we encourage that as well.
And the city's talked about giving us some signs. And I know we had a speeding problem on the street, and they actually put up the radar thing to watch the speeding and put some signs about going slow. People weren't going too slow. And we've had street lights out, and we've asked the city about that, and they've got a hold of PPNL, and street lights have been replaced. So there's a lot of things you can do as a neighborhood watch just to kind of increase safety. And to be really honest, the city's been super cooperative. And so...
and we encourage, if you are out and you see, because you know who belongs in your neighborhood, who doesn't, and give us a call. I can't guarantee that we'll be there in 15 seconds or 2 minutes or 5 minutes or 2 hours, but we're going to get there as quick as we can, depending on what we have going on at that particular time during the shift.
So thanks, Jeff. And in the meantime, we do our best. The county, if we get the jail up and going, I think it would be a big help.
Are there any other options for booking these people besides Coos County Jail? That 25 would be the same that Rose Learned.
Like Chief Calvin, there's resources like Patty Way. Contract.
Go back to the stocks. Public stocks.
Driving around town and something that's just.
Well, like you said, we read the same names over and over again, and you start going, why are they out? Why are they in my neighborhood? That if they were just in the paper yesterday, you know?
And our drug issue. So if you get an opportunity to talk in front of the Ways and Means Committee that is having a teleconference on Thursday night from 5 to 6 at the Tioga Hall, and they're wanting to eliminate the DES portion of Oregon State Police, which is the Drug Enforcement Services, and there's 18 detectives statewide that they want to eliminate those positions. To say those positions are instrumental. We have one on our drug team here. He's one of 2 detectives, and then Captain Mitz is the director of that. So if they pull Trooper Speeney off of that, our drug team is basically going to be nothing, because you can't go out and do it what you want. It's difficult to do it, very, very difficult to do. But there's other drug teams around the state that are fully funded or fully manned by OSP, and we all know right now our biggest car problem is heroin. Heroin is what's driving these car thefts.
I have to tell you, quick transparency here, I have a son who's clean 6.5 years from heroin. Lived here, and that's where he got started, and moved away and can't come back. But it can be done, and so I have a little bit of grace for people. I realize that there are some good people, but not unless they get the help, and they don't get the help if they're just in and out of jail.
Yep. For the you that just showed up, okay, this is we're at the end of our agenda, but we're taking public comments. And so this is just a work session, but if there's a comment you'd like to make, feel free to make it. So.
Who's cutting your funds for the drug task force? Is that out of the governor's office?
Governor's office.
Okay.
It's part of her cuts on hers.
So what did you say there was something we could watch with the participating?
There's a teleconference at the Tioga out at SWAC.
Okay.
Thursday night from, I believe it's 5 to 6, and the Ways and Means Committee are taking testimony on the governor's budget. That's what she's proposing. So they had face-to-face around several, and then Representative Hume and Senator Roebling knew that there was more people that wished to speak, so they were instrumental in getting the teleconference put up between here and the area.
So if the discussion was continued, you'd be willing to stay, Chief, right, and have more discussion after the meeting? Okay. So any more public comments from anyone that showed up about anything?
Officer, I was told on the street the other day that the heroin issue, we've definitely got a heroin issue, and that is being cut with fentanyl, possibly out of China.
I'm not sure where it's coming from, but that's one of the trends that we're running into.
That's really dangerous. That's even more dangerous.
Okay, if there's no other public comments, we'll go to any council comments. Anyone? I got some, so no one wants to go first.
We had a meeting, the city had a meeting here at 4 o'clock to address the cleanup, homeless cleanup.
Right.
Not homeless, excuse me, the park cleanup.
Right.
And I thought it was a great meeting. I thought the fire chief did a great job of bringing people together, and I think and there were a number of agencies represented at the meeting, and so they will be at the cleanup on the 20th and 29th. So I thought it was a great meeting, so kudos to the city staff for putting that together.
Good. Anyone else? Yes.
So we're talking about the cleanup on the 20th and 29th. What exactly is going to go on?
Why don't we do that after the meeting? That's a conversation with the staff. We'd be happy to have that with you. We'll let the council finish up, and we can talk about that after the meeting.
So I think there's a memo sent out by there was a memo sent by Roger about the school bond issue. James Martin and
Alan Webster?
Yes, thank you. Met with Roger and myself and wanted to come to our next council meeting and make a presentation. But I also asked if we could be interested in doing a resolution. I said I would bring that up to the council. So talk about that. We could draft something and support that. If not, they could still come and we could independently support it. I didn't know how you felt, but I wanted you to be informed and give me some kind of idea, or at least Roger, where you would like to go with this.
Well, I'm
very supportive of the bond measure, so I would be in support of a resolution if the rest of the council would.
I don't have a problem with it either. I just think we're starting to ask the people of this area for tons and tons of money, so, but I mean, anything we can do to throw our support behind it, please.
Bill?
Yeah.
I mean, I want to make sure everyone's comfortable with this. If they're not, you know, we can just independently say we support it too. So.
I support it, and I don't have a problem with the council's.
Okay with the resolution?
How specific is a resolution? I'm supportive. I don't have kids in school, but I would definitely support it. I know we have some serious problems.
But I think that it can be as general as that the council, we can state what the need is, and obviously, I mean, it was very compelling, the presentation we received, that most of our schools have an average age of 50 years old, and some of them haven't been had any major work done in that 50 years. Some of our schools are actually much older than that, nearing 80 years, and there are considerable needs. One of our schools is in really bad condition, and it needs to be replaced. But I think we can generalize that there's a great need. This is the Best Bond Group has done a lot of work in trying to figure out what's the most economical way to approach this, and I think they've put together a fairly good package, although it's very expensive.
And I think from the city point of view, I think what might be more important from our point of view is the economic development benefits that come from having improved school facilities.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. All right. So.
Did you weigh in?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So, but I did.
Okay. Sorry. I don't remember. I'm partly a veteran.
So the other thing I had brought up in the past, like bike racks, you know, the one thing Coos had stored pretty nice, but I mean, you know, Lisa not so big and intrusive, but it was kind of a nice thing. And so I know that's on our agenda, I thought, somewhere down the road. It's something that came up from another business owner, and it wasn't in this state, I don't think happened, so Nate gets away on this one. Is that through our business license, I don't know if there can be restrictions or not, but this has come up in talking about having a municipal judge throughout the county and here. You know, they don't pay their property taxes, other businesses aren't following certain issues or not paying their dues, or like for instance, maybe not maintaining their, I've been harping on this, their grease trap or something. So why do we have to issue a business license to that business? If they're not doing what they need to do or paying the taxes they should be paying, why are we allowing them to participate in business where the other business owners have to maintain certain structures and costs to maintain their business and operate in the city, but others don't? And for instance, sometimes we can find maybe a business that didn't pay property taxes for years. All of a sudden, they get to a point when they come in, and the county or the city, probably the county, correct? Yeah. So, why do we continue to give them business licenses and they're not maintaining these structure and costs? And I thought it was a good point. I don't know. And for us, it would be pretty easy then, because without a business license, you cannot operate a business. So I don't know how you feel about that. I don't know how you feel. I mean, this guy brought this up. I went, wow. Wherever it came from was in this state. This is what they did, and I think it was a really easy remedy to control things and make sure that everyone's doing their part.
Well, we have to look at our business license criteria. Right. I'm not so sure any of the things you're mentioning are really part of the criteria. Whether they can legitimately be part of the criteria, that's something I have to check.
So I don't know how the rest of the council feels about this, but I think it wasn't a bad idea. And when talking to Commissioner Sweet, you know, I mean, he was talking about the municipal judge sharing roles, because what he's saying is happening is that they're not able to give the attention to these properties, and by the time they get to them, then they have to do something with them, like condemn them, tear them down, and it falls an expense to the county. And so this could help facilitate that also. Anyway.
I don't see a problem with it. The only thing is, how are we going to determine these problems?
Well, I think on the property taxes, it's pretty simple.
Well, that would be simple, but you know, if we're not maintaining the grease trap,
well,
how are we going to know that?
Well, my philosophy on that was I don't want to put another burden on the city, but I think that we could implement a situation where any restaurant that had a grease trap would have to turn in a slip from a reputable licensed person that does this, and if it's not done, at least, you know, to that inspection or done that to those degrees, then it's a violation. And that is an impact to all of us. We're talking about our sewer rates, and I'm sure that they can tell you that if grease trap's not being maintained properly, it's going to impact them. And what happens with a grease trap, I'll just tell you since I'm so familiar with this, if you don't do this with a grease trap, it overflows into the sewer line and it goes into the streets. And then it becomes a real problem. So the grease trap's just there and it's good to maintain the grease, but if you don't have it maintained properly, then it doesn't do any good.
That makes sense then.
So you're talking about establishing a set of minimum standards, basically,
And I think
in
that,
order to renew your business license.
yes, and I think that would be determined, first of all, I don't know if it's even legal, so which is where we stand. And I think the first step would be to see if we want the city attorney to do that or not. Then those standards would be determined by the council, I guess.
Well, I think that's a good idea.
People that need to follow the
So
rules.
see, I know she's shaking the heads no, so.
No, we're good, it's late.
All right. All right, anything else? All right, thank you.